Okay, here we go. And welcome to the weekly Frank Kern Inc. check-in call of greatness. This week's call is sponsored by Southern California weather, which for some reason has been strangely inconsistent the last couple of weeks, but we'll do what we can. For those of you that have been on these calls in the past and are used to hearing Josh's voice, I am not Josh, I am Brett. And I'm here today because we had some requests and people were asking about tag naming conventions. So what I've decided to do is grace you with my presence, and I have to tell you, it makes me feel really good to know that people want to hear me. So I'd like to thank the Academy. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and go through some strategies for naming conventions on tags. And then I'll open it up for some questions. This call is going to be a little bit different. We're going to forego some of the accountability stuff, so you guys can breathe easy this time. Josh isn't going to crack the whip quite as much. But I'm going to take you through tags, then I'll answer some questions, and then we'll go to just general questions, anything that you've got. I'll just flip it back over to Josh, and he'll take over at that point. Okay. So let's get rolling with tags, and let's start chatting about that. So what I want to take you through is a couple of things with tags. And I've mentioned this to a couple of you before. In fact, before I jump too far into this, let me just set the stage here. Tags are used for a lot of different things in Infusionsoft. A lot of people have different relationships with tags, and they try and get different things out of their tags. But the way that the way that I've found to be the most effective use of tags is, number one, to indicate where somebody is in a particular campaign. Number two, to indicate what they've done, meaning you would just apply tags when somebody takes an action. Number three, to indicate just random profile information about the person, like this guy's from California, or this guy, I went to school with him, whatever. And then number four, they're used for starting and stopping sequences in campaigns, right? They're just used just for goals. So those are the four uses for tags that I see. Now, when it comes to the way that tags are organized in Infusionsoft, there's usually two schools of thought. The first school is that you categorize tags by the campaign that they're in, and then you just have tags that are specific to that campaign. The second school of thought, which is the one that I espouse, the one that I belong to, is that you categorize your tags by use. Okay? So what I'm going to take you through right now is how to create a naming convention that will be consistent across all of your campaigns for everything that you're doing. It's kind of just like a holistic approach to naming your tags that I think will be helpful in that it will just keep everything consistent, and it'll be nice moving forward. Okay, so the marching orders here, number one, are we're going to go under the assumption that we're categorizing our tags by use. The most important thing from anything you take from this, the most important thing is that you need to have a convention. So you can do it however you want. This is how I do it. Okay. So number one, first thing we have to consider is the categories of the tag. So we just talked about the categorization, and you'll notice that my four categories line up perfectly with what I talked about the uses of tags are. Okay. So we'll have, when we set up different, tag categories, we'll have these four categories of tags and only these four categories of tags, because these are the only four uses of a tag. Status indicates where they are in a campaign. History indicates what they've done, meaning any link they've clicked or any form they've filled out or anything like that. There's a specific tag for that. Profile indicates just extra information. You have custom fields that you can store a lot of this information in the contact record, but profile tags help to supplement those custom fields. So you only have 100 custom fields, so sometimes you need a little bit more. And then system, those tags are only used for starting and stopping sequences inside of Infusionsoft. So you do system tags for, like, if plus this needs to apply a tag when someone's watched a certain amount of a video. Maybe you're using Stealth Seminar to apply tags when someone has joined a webinar. All of those types of tags, those would be exclusively system tags that you would use for that. Okay. So those are the four categories, and there will be questions, I think, about this, and I'm happy to take questions, but I'm going to kind of move on from this. So inside those four different categories, there's going to be a convention for the name of the actual tag, and I want to step back just for a second and explain one piece because this influences the naming convention of the tags themselves. When I set up any of my campaigns, I'll put it this way, all of the campaigns in the apps that I work in, and by that I mean in our app, our internal app, they're divided into these 5 categories. Okay, so we have marketing campaigns. Marketing campaigns are designed to get leads from advertising to a salesperson. We have a salesperson, which we do. Sales campaigns are designed to get someone from the marketing to close on a particular product sale. Fulfillment is designed to fulfill the product they just purchased. Finance is designed, all the finance campaigns are designed to automatically follow up with people whose cards declined, whose credit cards expire, any of that kind of stuff. And then internal is for any campaigns that you use for like onboarding of new employees or any of that kind of stuff. Okay, so we categorize the campaign by what area of the business it sits in. And that becomes important when we get to the actual naming convention, okay? So let's look at this, and I'm going to kind of slow this down and go through this piece by piece, but I want to kind of take you through the way that a tag is set up in our app, or the way it will work. So what we do, you'll notice the first thing we got on there is the category, so 10.marketing, and then you've got the name of the campaign. This is where we're actually categorizing our tags by campaign, is right here in the actual name of the campaign. And then we've got where, like, this is a status tag, for example, and then the next piece is like their status. Now, if this was a system tag or a history tag or anything else, everything after the name of the campaign would just indicate, its function, what exactly that tag is supposed to report or do. But this is the essential naming convention. So I'm going to break it down and go through each of these pieces one at a time. So this first little bit here, we're going to just do the category. And you'll notice I included the numbers, 10.marketing. I'll talk about this a little bit later when I show it to you. But when you number these things, it makes it all pretty, because then in your app, the campaigns show up in order and the tags all show up in order. So you've got easy access to the right tags when you need them. Okay? So that first bit is the number 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, and then the dot, and all this stuff is important. The period, space, and then marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, internal, right? Then you have a space and a hyphen and a space, and the next piece you're going to add is the name of the campaign, okay? And the name of the campaign can be whatever you want. There's no real structure for how that works. This particular campaign is a webinar that we have, an automated webinar for a particular product that we're selling. So we just call it the ACC AutoWeb, because that's what it is. You could, if you have hundreds of campaigns, hundreds of different marketing campaigns you're running, you could just use a number for this, which would then, translate back into whatever you're doing. This can be whatever you want, is what I'm saying. All right. Then after the name of the campaign, you put a colon, and then the number of, for a status tag, for example, you put their current status. So this is 0.01.registered. That's where they are right now. They haven't done anything else. And then you add the space, the hyphen, and the space, and then you put whatever the next step is. Now those last 3 bits, this current status and next step, that all gets replaced if you're doing a history tag. You wouldn't need this next step part, because history just means they registered, right? We don't really care as much whether they need to attend, because that tag's never going to get removed, the history tag. If this is a system tag, then you would just put, instead of registered, you would put filled out opt-in form or start campaign, right? A lot of you have the start campaign tags in in fact, all of you do have the start campaign tags. You kind of will recognize that. But here, that's kind of what would happen. You have the category of the tag, then you've got the category of the campaign, then you got the name of the tag, then you've got whatever actually is supposed to show up there. Now, the numbering, what I actually want to do, and I kind of jumped into this. Josh and I didn't get a whole lot of time to prepare for this, so this is a little pay no attention to the man behind the curtain kind of thing. But what I want to do is actually open up Infusionsoft, and I want to show you what the benefit of the tag naming convention and the numbering actually gives you when you have it all set up. So I'm going to jump out of our little slides here and then open up. Do you have the new app open up here someplace?
It's on that list.
Okay, so I'll just open up in here. Yeah. So we'll go to here, and I just want to show you what will end up happening when you have tags set up correctly. or at least when you have some sort of convention. Okay. Wait, did it just shut off my screen? Hang on, let's go here. All right, so now it's on. Okay, that was weird. Okay, so we're back here. Let's get this thing up. And I want to go to, number one, we're going to look at a contact search. Okay. Now, when you look down in here, in this little box right here, you'll notice that all of my status tags, because I did 01.status in the category, those will all show up right at the top. And really, when you're in your business, when you're looking for people, you want to find people in your business, what's happening right now, they're going to show up under the status is what you're looking for first most of the time. All right, looks like we got. I just want to make sure that. Oh, there it is. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so some people, are you seeing Infusionsoft now, Pete? I tried to turn the screen back on. Still no? Oh, do you see the other side? We're going to figure this out, people. Okay, how about now?
Screen too.
Boom. Cool. Thanks, man. Thank you, Pete. Keeping me on task here. Okay, let me move this out of the way. It's off here. All right, so you can see how, I'll back up just a second. So I'm looking at a contact search here in Infusionsoft. And when I go to look for people in Infusionsoft, I'm looking based on tags most of the time. Most of the time, in fact, if you have your whole system set up to where you're tagging correctly and you have this proper naming convention, you're definitely going to be looking based on tags most of the time, because the tags are going to give you the accurate representation of what you're looking for. But you'll notice I've got all of my status tags together. I've got all of my so all my status tags to show up together first of all, right? All the status. Then you got history, and then you've got the other ones down there. Now within my status category, all of my marketing tags, my marketing campaigns show up together. Then we go into sales, and then the campaign, all that stuff shows up together. And you could actually number the campaigns as well, to get that stuff working the way you want. And then all the statuses show up in order. So there's no need to worry, think about, oh wait, which status comes first? Did they see the offer before they leave earlier? Like how do those statuses actually work? Because all of this stuff is set up in a particular order and with the particular numbering and naming convention, it shows up exactly the way that we want to see it. Okay. Now when I move down into my sales category, right, same thing. The only thing that's changed here is the category of the campaign. So we've got sales, the name of the campaign, the colon, then the number, and so on and so forth. All right. Now, when we look at history, you'll notice that in this app there are some small differences than what I just explained to you. But this is going to be an example of some stuff that you could do to get more specific and more detailed, more nitpicky, which we like to be. You'll notice for history, some of these things are indicated in here as like milestones. So let's go to history here. Right, so we've got, for ACC AutoWeb, we've got 3 milestones, right? These ones just match up exactly with the statuses, right? So you remember the first status in the ACC AutoWeb campaign is registered, needs to attend, right? So we've got a milestone which says registered. Awesome, they hit that milestone. Then the next one, if we scroll to the top, is attended, needs to see offer. Well, the history tag is just a milestone that says they attended, okay? Which is... I have the hardest time scrolling with this mouse. Here we go, which is here, right? The next one is milestone saw offer. Those are just as they move through the process, that's what we're trying to get them to do. Now you'll notice here, this is where we start to get really, really fun. Here we've got the same thing, AutoWebby, 10 marketing on ACC AutoWebby, and then 03, and then .01, okay? And this .01 basically just means this is an activity that happens as part of the milestone. So in this case, we're tracking if somebody sees the offer on the webinar, and then we're also tracking whether they see the countdown after the offer, right? The countdown emails that we've talked about. So we're just tracking that. And then down at the very bottom, well, so then we've got more milestones down here. But then you'll notice we've got these things called exits. And these are basically the same thing as a milestone, but this just indicates that it's the place where they leave that particular campaign, meaning they didn't do what you wanted them to do. there's basically there's statuses, and then there's a finish, which is like they did what we wanted them to. They bought the product, and then there's all these exits, which are, all right, well, this is like contingency, right? We're putting them into a different place. Okay. And all this does basically is create a specific convention or structure for your tags, so that when you go to look for them, when you're doing a contact search this way, they show up in order. And when you're like looking in your campaigns to set them up, they show up in order, and it works that way. Okay. So this is an idea. Now, all that being said, with all this crazy structure and everything that we've set up here, with all the different pieces that we're putting on there, you guys remember at the very beginning I said there's two schools of thought. There's one which is categorize the tags by campaign. The other is categorize the tags by use. So this is how you do it based on use. All the campaigns we push to you guys, for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of not creating more explanation work for why they're all named that way, which ironically now thinking about it, we could have given them anyway. We created the tags originally that are categorized by campaign. So you may have noticed that there is a structure to what we gave you. It's just not quite this intense. Okay. So the important thing, like I said, is that you have a structure, and that it's organized, and that you know exactly what you're doing. So you may not go to this level of detail on the tag that you're doing. You may just do status and system for the categories of tags. You may not worry about history and all those other things. You may just be concerned with status itself. But that's essentially how we would go through that, and that's what the naming convention would actually look like. So if anybody has any questions on that, I'm happy to go through. I think we actually do have one here. Let me see what it is. Bruno. Bruno, question about if I'm the guy that spent some time with... Oh, no, that would not have been me. You might be thinking of Brent Attaway. He's another guy who has worked with Frank in the past. That's probably not me. But anyway, does anybody have any questions about naming convention? I'm happy to go through and answer specific questions. I know you probably have some questions for Josh, which I don't want to get too much in the way of, but I do also know that some of you came specifically wanting to know more about naming conventions. So any questions you guys have, feel free to drop them in there. I'll stick around and just ramble for another couple minutes until just to give you guys a chance to ask some questions. Can we get a copy of your naming conventions, Bruce? Yeah, absolutely. I'll put together just based on this little slides thing that I made. I'll put together a little overview of how everything works, so you guys can use it that way, and then just model it. But the biggest thing again is to remember that it's not about following exactly what I do. It's about following the principles of what I do to set up something that's going to work for you. Because the worst, it's like weight loss, right? Any of you that are in the weight loss industry, you'll know if you set yourself up for failure by trying to sustain a diet or an exercise regime that you can't sustain because it's not part of your lifestyle. And so it's better in the same way. It's the same mental thing that happens with this. You just need to have something that works for you that you'll actually use and you'll be consistent with. All right. Okay, so Pete's first of all, Pete, always. That's the only thing I'm ever calling you. But also Pete's asking, can you show the naming convention by campaign? Are you talking about naming the names of the campaigns, or are you talking about like can he show you all the tags for a campaign, what they look like? If you can give me some clarity on that, that would be awesome. Let me see. I'm going to move on to this next one. Is there a way to tag someone who opens an email broadcast automatically? Tim, that's a great question. And the answer is, unfortunately, no. Well, technically, it is possible to do that, but it requires a good deal of work. I can. There's actually a video that a guy made that walks you through how to do that, and I'll get Josh to send that out after this call. He'll include it with this call link. So it is possible to do that, but one of the problems is that it's not really that reliable. The open rates aren't really that reliable, and so if you start building in contingencies based on whether someone opens an email, you can, like, it works and it's fine, but it's like some people will open the email and it won't show that they opened, And so you might end up sending them extra stuff with the assumption that they haven't opened the email when they actually have. So anyway, okay, so Pete wants to see the tags for the campaign. Oh man,
Well,
sorry. I know, seriously. Well, I have that set up on mine too. The corners are different, so it's not quite the same. Yes. So if you go into let's go to CRM settings in here. I'll just show you all the tags that we have in this particular app. So we'll go to tags. First of all, you can categorize these by, here's all my status tags. This is what they look like, right? And then you can put them in order. And look at this. They all just show up right in order of campaign. All the way down, which is awesome. But if you want to see all the tags for a particular campaign, like for example, ACC Auto Webby, then they'll all show up here. So I've got this whole list of tags, and I'll sort them by category. So we've got all the status tags at the top, right? Here's all our status tags. Here's all of our history tags, right? And then here's the system tags down at the bottom. So we have a tag, his system tag for when the campaign starts, like when someone registers, for when they attend, when they see the offer, if they re-register, so meaning for the second time, and then attended too late would take too long to explain, so I'm not going to go too deep into that, but but that's another one. Is that what you're looking for, Pete? Sorry, Pete. Yeah, give me just one. Yeah, Pete, I'll show you that just real quick. So Pete's question actually is not show me the tags. It's how would you tag by campaign as opposed to by use. And the first thing I'll say is that's actually how your tags are set up, Pete. The campaigns we push to you. It's basically, instead of the use being here, we just have the list of all the campaigns that we've got in the category, and then we have some status tags and some other tags. It's a little bit when you create a naming convention based on campaign, it's a little bit more loose and a little bit more on the fly because it's kind of harder to create this much structure for that kind of thing. You basically would have to you could switch out the name of the campaign with the category of the tag. So you could do 10.marketing and then status, and then registered needs to attend. You wouldn't actually even need the marketing part. You just need status, register needs to attend, and then the category would be ACC Auto Webby. But you just have more categories is what would end up happening. So that's kind of how that would work. Here's another one. All right. Awesome. All right, Bruno. So good question, Bruno. You can expect we'll have those campaigns pushed into your Infusionsoft really soon. I'm going to have Josh is actually working on that, so he'll be able to be in contact with you to make sure that stuff's happening quickly. But we'll make sure that we get those things pushed in. All the tags. Now, Bruno, one thing that I'll point out to you is the tags that are going to come in aren't going to look exactly like this. They're going to be a little bit different, but they're going to follow a naming convention. So just don't let that throw you off too much. Okay. All right. Bruce says he's having trouble reading my screen. Is that anybody else having trouble with that? I think it probably is. Let's see if I can do this right. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one either. Nope. Man, I'm having troubles here.
Try this one and plus.
Oh, there we go. I just wasn't on it. All right, so I'm just zooming in here. We'll see if that makes it any better. Okay. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so here's a good question from back from Pete again. Made a copy of a template, modified and saved as my own template. Made copies of that campaign. Timers got all messed up. Oh, that's interesting. So this is good for everybody to know. Pete's saying he made a copy of a copied campaign, and that caused problems. I have never known that to be true. I'll have to do some testing to find out if that is true, so I can't really answer whether that is true or not. I would not be, how do I say this nicely? It's possible, it's conceivable that they said that thinking that was the problem when it really wasn't. So I'll look into it and see what we can figure out, but I don't know if copying a copied campaign which should cause problems. I don't really know. So. All right, cool. Any other questions on tags? I want to give you guys a chance to chat with Josh and get any other general questions answered. But if you have any other questions about tags, I'm happy to stick around and answer them as much as possible. Otherwise, I'm gonna jet and go do some other things. So okay. All right, so I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna turn the time back over to Josh and let him take over from here. I'm gonna unzoom out so that he can do what he needs to do. He'll take over, answer any other general questions you have. And then if you have other questions about tags, feel free to let him know. He can answer what he can. If he can't, then we'll have a list here and I'll answer any questions that I can. Maybe I'll make another follow-up video about this, as well as give you guys a version of this thing as like a PDF, so you can go through the naming convention. Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. It's always fun to come back and hear myself talk. So see you guys next time.
Cool. Thank you, sir. That was extremely helpful. Hope you guys got a lot of value out of that. The takeaway being, just have something in place. Whether you follow this exactly, whether you come up with your own version, just have a system and follow it and have a plan, really. That's the big takeaway from all of this. Yours doesn't have to be quite as complex as we have it. We have a lot of stuff that we track, and we have a lot of different ways we go about doing that. And a lot of systems and a lot of different technologies that are all tying together, so we need each of these pieces. Now, you may not have that, which is totally fine. Just have something that you can follow and make sense to you, and be consistent with it. And that is the entire key to tagging. Okay, I'm going to sign out of this app. And like we said, we're going to skip our check-ins and stuff for this week. So I'm going to go right into kind of some tech Q&As that were emailed in. And then if you guys have questions about, anything Infusionsoft, Megaphone, webinar stuff, you can type those in right now, and we'll start rifling through them. So let me pull up my questions. Can you go through the what's the date feature? Yes. No matter what, this always comes up every week, and I get it. It's very confusing. It took me a long time to figure it out as well, but let's run through it real quick and get signed in for this here. Okay, so as we all know, plus this used for tons of different ways. This particular feature, what's the date, we are using it to calculate specific dates that are not today. So if, for instance, we are taking away someone's access on a specific date, if their card is closing on a specific date, if something is happening in the future that we need to calculate, and it's going to be different for every person, so it's not like a hard set date, then we need something that's going to automatically calculate that for us. That is what plus this does. That's what the what's the date feature does. So you will all see, and I just hopped into the AutoWebby campaign. If yours doesn't look like this, we've kind of redesigned it a little bit. It still functions the exact same, so that is why. So if you go into the objection handling, we have the send HTTP post. That is what's calculating that date. So this is what plus this is using to calculate that date. So as soon as they come into this sequence, this is going to be fired off. So we'll go into plus this. We will add a feature, hit this little implementers toolkit. What's the date? We're going to hit add. First thing, start with this date, the date when the feature is used. That's what we want to calculate. That being the time they enter this sequence, the time that this fires off. That would be the date the feature is used. So whenever that happens, that's the date the feature is used. So, oops. And then we want to add 4 days. That is most of our countdown sequences are all 4 days. You can obviously put however many days you want. If you want to calculate a different date, you can do that. Just the toughest part is doing the correct math. Surprisingly enough, I've seen it many times where they just have the wrong number of days in there and it messes everything up. So you don't have to do 4, but that's what we do. I'm going to hit date format options. We're going to put the human formatted date, which is just how the date appears. So select that from here. Month, day, year, that's fine, works for us. You can choose whichever one of those. If you're international, you might want to do, Wednesday, 21st October. I know some people had troubles with this one, but anyway, you can figure that out. Then you have to choose the Infusionsoft field. So this is the custom field that we're storing that date in. So when that feature fires off in Infusionsoft, it is actually going to put the date just like that. It's going to do the math. It's going to add 4 days. It is going to calculate that date and it's going to store it in an Infusionsoft custom field. So you'll be able to go to that person's contact record, look at that field, and this date will be stored in there. So we're going to pick 4-day cache, cart closed. So let's say we're doing this. I know I picked AutoWebby, but let's say we're doing this for a 4-day cache machine. Works either way. So then I'm going to name it. The naming doesn't matter so much, just as long as you know what it is. So let's go ahead and copy that. And then I will actually hop into the 4-day cache machine since I picked it for that, although it doesn't matter. I could use the same feature. So that's another thing. If I wanted to, I could use the same plus this code. Now, I know I stored it in the 4-day cache custom field, but if I just wanted like a generic custom field that was called cart close, I could use this same link right here. I could use the same plus this feature for all my campaigns. Now, the trouble with that is if you have people in multiple campaigns at the same time, and that is trying to fire off, that date could get messed up because it's going to keep getting overridden by the other feature. But if you're organized and they're all just kind of cycling through, it will recalculate and it will replace that old feature. So you can do that. I don't like to, just because I like to have my separate fields for everything, just to make sure I'm not crossing any kind of crisscrossing campaigns and getting confused and stuff. Just makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, you definitely can. So we'll hop into the 4-day cache 2.0. And in our countdown sequence, we're just going to click on that, plus this URL right there, drop it in, back to sequence, publish it, all done. Now, that date will calculate as soon as they hit the sequence. The next thing you have to do, and most of this should be set up, double check in each email where you're saying, hey, this date is closed on, whatever that merge code is. Make sure it's the same field that we just stored that date in. So if you remember, we stored it in the 4-day cache cart closed field. That was the field I chose from the plus this feature. So right here, 4-day cache cart closed is the field I chose. That's the merge field we're going to use in Infusionsoft. So when I go into these emails, you'll see, hey, until midnight on, then I have that merge code. So say that was wrong. I'm like, nope, that's the wrong code. I want to put in a new one right there. I'm going to hit insert, hit this little merge fields option. Contact fields custom is the second one down, since it is a custom field. And then we have 4-day cache cart closed. Select that. There it is. It entered that merge code in. Good to go. when you send the test right here, I've gotten this question before. A lot of people will just send the test right there. You have to actually put yourself in the campaign because this is acting independent of kind of everything else. So it's just sending this email. It's not, hasn't calculated the date yet. It hasn't merged it in. And I actually don't know if it will, even if I already had a date in my field in like my contact record. I don't know. I can't remember if it'll actually merge it in, but either way, I don't generally trust the little send test. Like, it's good to like check formatting and like spelling stuff, but in terms of merge fields, I much prefer just going back, publishing the campaign, and just dropping myself into this sequence. So just skipping everything, dropping myself in there. That way I can make sure everything's kind of firing at the same time. Another issue we have seen, kind of like a little bit of a gotcha, is if they're entering this sequence. Well, when you enter the sequence, all of these starts fire off at the same time. So this is calculating, this tag is being applied, and this tag is being applied, and this tag is being removed. So there's no timer, so they're all going like right at the same time. So we have seen where when this timer wasn't here, so now we have like a little minute timer that is solely so this can calculate and get that date in the field, and then so we can merge it into these emails. Because we have seen it where all of these things go and there's no timer here. That email sends, but the system hasn't quite calculated the date and merged it into the custom field yet. So that email comes and it still has like the merge code on it. It still says on contact. People are like, oh, what the heck? So if you have this and you're sending an email like right at that moment, I would just add a little timer, set it to 1 minute, just to give the system enough time to kind of calculate that stuff and make sure it's all working and all hunky-dory, if you will. Okay, how do I mass tag a list of contacts? Good question. So you will have to have a way to pull that list of contacts. So the easiest way to search for contacts is by tag. But if you have your list, so like maybe they all purchased and you haven't tagged them, maybe they all are in a campaign and you want to tag them. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. If you're in like your e-commerce, you can go to the reports and you can, pull up one of the sales reports, like the all sales. And obviously this is my app, so there's no sales. These are all like weird tests that have been run over the years. So I would just hit start over. You could pick a date range right here, and then I can kind of get my list here. So I could, do it by product ID, do it by purchase type, do it by amount, whatever I want. If I just want to tag all the people that bought within, this date, hit search, it'll pull my list. These are all tests, obviously, like I said, but say you have a list of, 75 people here. You're like, okay, I want to tag them all. So you hit this little actions icon up in the top left. Second one, apply remove tag. And now I can go in and find whatever tag I want to apply. 4-day cash machine, whatever it is, I can apply it from there. So select it, hit save, and then I'd hit process action, and that tag would be applied. So that's kind of how you can mass tag people. If you are importing people, another way to do it, like say you had another system, you're migrating people to Infusionsoft and you want to tag all these people before they get, or like while they come into your system, there's a way to do that. Oops. Import data. And then you can select right here. So if you use one of these, this is actually a good I get questions on how to import all the time. If you use one of these, it makes it really easy because it's already kind of ready for the formatting of that. So if you export your list from Aweber, they export it in a certain way. So you can just hit this, load up your Aweber list, and it'll load it into Infusionsoft. And once they're imported into Infusionsoft, like the first thing it asks you is, would you like to run any actions, or would you like to do anything with these contacts? So you can apply the tag right from there. You can say yes, action, just like I showed you, apply tag, and you can say, new customer list, or, tag them with your newsletter tag, or, whatever it may be. That's also a good way if you have people who have purchased your product, but maybe you haven't been selling through Infusionsoft or something, but you want them all tagged when they come in because you're going to run them through these campaigns, but you want to exclude the people that have purchased. Best thing to do is import 2 separate lists. So import all of your contacts, get them into the system, and then import all the people who purchased. And then you can apply like a purchase tag to them. Because then when we filter them into the campaigns, you can apply the tag, we can go say I just imported all my people. I've got my people tagged with the purchase tag, and I've got everyone else is in there. Here are my contacts. I'm going to go start over. And I want to find everyone that doesn't have any of these tags. And, that's going to be I think there's a purchase tag for one of these. We have an auto launch purchased one, but I guess that's if they come back through. But anyway, so you could exclude, I'd select doesn't have any of these tags, select the purchase tag and hit search. That way I have a list of all of my people who have not purchased this specific product. And then I can go actions and apply the start campaign tag, and that will drop them all into the campaign. So again, have consistent tagging principles when you're doing all that. Just, create your system kind of beforehand and make sure you're following it. That will save you a lot of headache later on down the road. Is there a reason to have the HTTP post get started by its own start icon? Can we just put it in the same line before the minute timer? Yeah, you absolutely can do that. So what he was asking is, can you have it go back into the campaign? The only reason we really did it is just for clarity and for aesthetic purposes. He was asking if you could have the HTTP post sit kind of right here instead of, on the same line, just so you know what's happening before the email goes out. Yeah, you could absolutely do that. You could have all of these on the same line if you want. We just separated it because it's a lot easier to kind of look at and see what's happening. So basically we took a lot of this from, another company called 6 Division, who are masters at this stuff, and they kind of separate. They have like their systems, they have like their email, and they have everything on kind of separate lines. So you can always hop into a campaign and say, okay, I know exactly what's happening. I've got it broken down into these things. Like here's all my emails, here's all my system tags, here's all my, whatever is happening, system settings. So that's the only reason we did that, just for clarity. And so you can, see what's happening, and it's not as, in a straight line, but functionality does the exact same. The only thing that you can't do is have 2 separate timers in the same line. So for instance, say in this line, I wanted to add a delay timer, and then I wanted to have a date timer. If I try to connect those, it'll give me a red line. Even if I throw out, some kind of goal before, that works fine, red. I don't know 100% why that is. I know it's been explained to me because I've asked multiple times. I think it's just because the timers and like the date, if you have a specific date, but it's, say this is set to wait 24 hours, but this date is in less than 24 hours, it gets all messed up. or if this is set to run in 2 days, but you have one of these field timers that, the field setting happens to be, in 2 hours and it's all off. It doesn't know which one to refer to, so they made it so you can't have that. They have to be on separate lines. But other than that, yeah, you can have them all on the same line, just for aesthetic purposes, like I said. How do we add automation links on the email builder? Explain what exactly you mean, automation links. Do you mean like links where it applies a tag or like an action off of it, or links that redirect somewhere to apply a tag? Okay. So I'll hop into the 4-day cash machine email and say, here's where you can grab your copy half off. So say we want to tag whether they click that link. So right here, there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can do it via the link click and then we apply a tag on the next page. But if we just want to apply a tag, we don't want that to be the goal. We just kind of want to know. When you go up to the link, so see we have it selected, campaign link, and you can select your, this will be linked to the VSL. Next to it, there's that little plus icon and the little price tag. So you can just hit apply tag and then, create your clicked link, and, along with your naming convention and everything, you can create a tag right there. So we can create it, or, if we already have one, we can just say, sure, done. Now there's that little 1 there, that tag is being applied. So any contact that clicks that link will automatically get that tag. I'm going to remove this though, so it's pushed. But yeah, good question. So yeah, that's just mainly for tracking. If you want to do goals on it, you can do that. It's the exact same as like a link click goal, but if you want it to apply the tag, obviously, after this sequence, this could be a tag goal instead. So that tag would pull them out, send them into the next. So it's basically a link click goal, but you're just you're just applying the tag with it. So cool. Any other questions Infusionsoft wise? Those are all the questions that I received. If there's anything else. Okay, so Pete asked, the spacing between email paragraphs sometimes gets ignored, so I added a period and made it white. Is there any problem with that? Deliverability problems? I don't know. I've never heard of that. I know exactly what you're talking about with the spacing issues. I don't know if adding a paragraph or a period does anything in terms of deliverability. I mean, I know it makes the gap. I would guess not. What I have done before, though, is when there's that gap, I just kind of remove it and hold Control, I think it is, and then hit Enter, and does the hard return, which it's something with the code. I don't know. A lot of you people probably know code a lot better than I do, but the hard return kind of, I don't know what it does. You can Google it, but I've seen that help with that. So if you're sending a test and sometimes you'll notice like all of these spaces are taken out of it and it's all just kind of mashed up. So I'll go through and kind of just remove the space and then hold Control and hit Enter and put the space back, and that hard return sometimes breaks it up, and that seems to work every time. I never had any issues with that. But again, I don't know why it does that. New email builder is coming though, as I've told you guys before on this call, and as I've been told by the powers that be at Infusionsoft, that the new email builder is coming very soon. So we can all look forward to that. Should be pretty cool. I don't know what else is included in it or anything, but yeah, they've said, I'm hearing awesome things, so we have high hopes for it. But yeah, the hard return should fix that issue. It's kind of a pain. You have to go back, but I've just started doing it every time just because I know that I don't know what, like randomly it'll happen. I'll send a test email and none of the spacing will be there, and I've never really figured out why it is sometimes and why it isn't. But a lot of times if you copy and paste it from Word just into the email, that will happen. If you build the email just from in here, you don't have that issue. But if you copy and paste it from other places, you'll tend to run into it. Will the new email builder automatically convert our existing emails into new format? I have no idea. I would imagine so. I don't know, actually. It would be hard for me to believe that they would roll it out if it didn't. But I do not know for sure. That's a good question. Sometimes the hard return wasn't working either, so the white period works every time. Okay, there you go. Good to know. Good problem solving. I don't know if I would have thought of that, but that's a great call. Yeah, that stuff's weird. Again, like I said, no idea why it does that, but a lesson, always test, always send yourself the email. Always try and open it in different email clients if you have a Yahoo email and a Gmail email, just to see. Sometimes they all treat emails differently and you can see some weird stuff, but yeah, it's just kind of some best practice. Well, cool. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. So thank you guys. I will put a recording of this in the Facebook group so you can go back and kind of review the tagging presentation and everything. Yeah, and if you have questions on that, like I said, just shoot me an email or shoot Brett an email on those tags and we can get them explained. Good chatting with everyone, and we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.